I am Aaron Chapin. I am the PSEA's Northeastern Region President. I'm also the President of the Stroudsburg Area Education Association, but more importantly, I'm a 5th grade teacher. I'm a husband to a special ed teacher and father of a 7th grade public school student. And our lives, our family, it's fully wrapped around Pennsylvania public schools. And that's the case we're making, hopefully many of you are making this November. Today's rally really does mean a lot. We have a very packed lineup today of men and women who share the same commitment to public education. Now, apparently this is one of the busiest Saturdays of the fall election season, and so we really need to get things started so that we can get some of our legislators on to other events today. I'm thrilled that we're able to squeeze in our first speaker. Congressman Matt Cartwright. He's actually from Northeastern Pennsylvania, unlike his opponent. We were not going to mention him by name. Congressman Cartwright has served the old 17th Congressional District fantastically, and he's going to do an even better job and be a beacon of integrity in the new 8th Congressional District. Congressman Cartwright has fought for children, for seniors, and everywhere in between. In an age when values are in short supply in Washington, D.C., Matt Cartwright has been a model of reliability and truthfulness. All of Lackawanna County, all of Pike and Wayne counties, along with significant portions of Luzerne and Monroe counties, as well as the rest of the United States, need Matt Cartwright to stay in Washington, D.C. So ladies and gentlemen, give a big hand for Congressman Matt Cartwright.
Thank you for the kind words, Mr. President, President Chapin. Thank you for all coming out on a fall-like Saturday morning. And what a wonderful thing it is we do here this morning, celebrate public education. You know, thank you for the wonderful, rousing national anthem this morning. It makes us proud to be Americans when we lead off meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance and a great rendition of the national anthem. And you know why else I'm proud to be American? You know why people want to come to our country from all corners of the world? Because we are the land of opportunity, aren't we? We are. We're the place where people can climb out of the depths of poverty and into the middle class. People can climb on those ladders from the middle class to reach the American dream. They can do that here in America. It's not just a theory, it's a reality. And there are two things that make that a reality in our nation. And you know what they are. They are collective bargaining rights with union rights and public education. We know, of all places in the world, right here in northeastern Pennsylvania, we understand that it's the right to organize and it's public education that make opportunity in America a reality. And that's why I'm very proud to come here and support this rally. I support public education. There are voices out there that would voucherize public education money. They would voucherize it. They want to voucherize a lot of other things too, like Medicare and Veterans Administration benefits. But the idea of turning public education into a voucher system to support private schools, I don't support it, and I want to tell you why. Because it begs the whole question of why we value public education in this country. We value public education because it's available to everyone. And it means opportunity is equal for everyone. If only the money goes to the the moneyed schools, if it goes to the schools that are supported by the people who have already made it in America, then opportunity slips away for the rest of us. And that's what we're here to celebrate. The fact that public education represents opportunity for our children. Our children are our future. We've got to make sure we keep opportunity available for American children for many, many generations to come, because that's what makes us proud to be Americans. I'm Matt Cartwright. I support public education. I support labor unions. I support you and the hard work that you do to take care of the education of our young people in this nation. I wish you Godspeed, and may God bless all of you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thanks, Aaron.
That was awesome. Nice job. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have got to get Congressman Cartwright back. It's essential. Especially this year where there's that blue wave coming. We need Congressman Cartwright to get back there. Are there any union members out there today? Let me hear you. That is awesome. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you giving up your Saturday mornings. I know in the fall it's a busy time, but I know you agree that Pennsylvania is at a crossroads. And we have to continue the progress that Pennsylvania has been making up over the last 4 years. We can't let hatred and greed win, and our kids deserve better. Up on stage, we have an amazing group of legislators who have the records, and they're going to make the case to you why we have so much on the line this November. We're going to be hearing from legislators that have been fighting for every Pennsylvanian, not just the ones that are rich and privileged. I've had the fortunate luck of being able to work with many of these speakers today. And it's not lip service when I state that these elected officials genuinely care about Pennsylvanians, and they want everybody to be taken care of and to succeed. They're good-hearted politicians, but most importantly, they're great Americans, and they're great people. All too often, we hear that an election is the most important election. And my educational colleagues around the square this morning will back me up by saying that this election will either propel our schools to a time of greater success and our Commonwealth into an unprecedented time of prosperity, or we can allow the elite to decimate our labor unions and to take over our schools and businesses. We don't want that, do we? We need to show Pennsylvanians that someone cares about each and every Pennsylvanian, and that our public schools are vital. We need to make a statement to the rest of the nation that the last 2 years are unacceptable. I can't wait for November 6th. I've been looking forward to this day since last November. And it's not just so we can get rid of all the ads on TV, because it's been horrible. But November 6th is a chance to silence the ignorant and out-of-touch Scott Wagner. It's a chance to show Pennsylvanians and the rest of America what really matters. And it's a chance to show that education needs to be Pennsylvania's top priority. Now, as a teacher, this election, it's about my 5th graders back home in Stroudsburg. It's about my 7th grade daughter, Sydney. It's about all the kids in the Northeast region, and I'm not willing to stand by and let a few politicians devastate our public schools. Some of them are doing it as retribution against unions and to prevent our children from getting a quality education. But I say no way. It doesn't matter your gender or your race, your religion, your socioeconomic background. Everybody needs to have an opportunity to be what they want in life. So, before I pass it off to our fantastic legislators, I do need to give some shout outs to my co-officers, Jen Agalino, who's our Region Vice President, Gretchen Ragazzo, who's our Secretary Treasurer for the Northeastern Region, We also have a great staff that were up bright and early this morning, and they take care of our 69 school districts in northeastern Pennsylvania. So thank you, John Holland, who is our region leader, and thank you to all the staff that helped you out this morning. Also, thank you to our great educators that are over in the square over there. They put up some booths today for our children. That's just typical of what they do, not just during the school week, but also on the weekends. They're constantly giving to the communities. I also have to introduce and thank another educator from the Wilkes-Barre area. She helped put much of this event together. She and Jen Aguilino have been working tirelessly over the last month to get this started. She's our PSEA Political Action Committee chairperson, Sue Aguilino. Yes, Sue Aguilino. Sue Agello Cool. It's been a long day already. She works really closely with the legislators up here, and I couldn't have done this without her. So, without further ado, Sue Agello Cool, come on up. You guys got to change your names.
I love it. It's fine. Thanks, Aaron. I know Jen and I will be there for you anytime you need it. That'll be our tag name. Mark it down. All right, so I have the privilege of introducing the wonderful legislators that we have here on your stage. They are our recommended PSEA PACE legislators that we will get out and vote for on November 6th. They are in Harrisburg and they tirelessly fight for our students and our profession and make sure that the best legislation to get fair public education for everyone passed. Our first legislator that I'd like to introduce is an up-and-coming legislator that we will be going to the polls for. He is new on the scene, and I keep saying that he's a legislator because I know we are all going to get out and vote for him on November 6th, is Kyle Mullins. He is raised in Peckville. He is a graduate of Valley View High School and Westchester University. Upon graduating Westchester, Kyle went on to work for our Senate Democratic Research Office. He then joined our Senator John Blake's office in 2011. As he worked for Senator Blake, he tirelessly demonstrated his experience, competency, and commitment to a strong education system. He has worked closely with PSEA to advance a pro-education agenda, and he will continue to do so in November. He is running in the 112th District. Our new up-and-coming star and future legislator of the Northeast Region delegation, Kyle Mullins.
Hello, Wilkes-Barre! I'm a few exits south of the district I hope to represent. The 112th District spans from Archbald, where my alma mater Valley View is, and down to the south side of Scranton. So I appreciate the warm welcome so far out of my territory, but we're all one family here. We're all one educational family. So it's an honor to share this stage with such incredible civic and educational leaders. And I'm very excited that Tom Wolf, our governor, is someone who's going to be here later on, I believe, and is someone we're going to send back to the governor's office on November 7th. Now, my wife, Lauren, and I, this election is very personal for us. We have a young son, and we're going to be sending him to a school in a few years, and I want to make sure that that educational system is strong, that he has teachers who are given the resources by Harrisburg and from Washington to be able to give him all the opportunity that we had. So this is a very personal election, as I know it is for parents and educators around the state. Our Democratic leaders have promised to fight for our school children, and by the way, they've held to that promise. thank you so much to Governor Wolf and these legislators for increasing education funding, but we can't stop there. We got to send these guys back to Harrisburg. We have to send Eddie Dapashinsky, Mike Carroll, Marty Flynn, these guys, and Sid Michaels right over there, back to the State House. We need to send John Udechak, John Blake, back to the State Senate. We got to send Matt Cartwright back to Washington. You don't know how important that is. We got to send Bob Casey back to the U.S. Senate, and most importantly, we got to elect Tom Wolf on November 7th. But the real champions of education aren't the elected leaders up here with a microphone. It's you. It's the men and women in our schools who stand in front of a classroom from Monday to Friday, volunteer at extracurricular activities, who bargain for fair contracts. Is that too much to ask?
No.
So the road to a better Pennsylvania is not going to be easy, and our shared goals aren't going to come overnight. But we've got to stick together, and the best way we can do that is getting out there, talking to our friends, talking to our family, hollering everywhere from my district all the way south to here, and parts in between, how important this is for our future. So again, I'm Kyle Mullins. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be up here. And if you know anybody up my way, please ask them to throw me a vote. But make sure we send these people back to Harrisburg and Washington. Thank you very much.
So we're going to move down the 81 corridor to one of our current legislators, who is Representative Sid Michaels-Kavulich. He is a graduate of Riverside High School and Williamsport Area Community College. He earned an associate's degree in broadcasting, a former radio and television journalist, and was a newscaster. And if anybody is a huge Disney fan, that is the man to go to, because he will talk your ears off for Disney for hours. But I give you Sid Michaels-Kavulich.
Thank you, Susan. At least when you looked at me, you remembered my name, Kyle. Come here. Stand right there. No, this is, where's your wife and your son? Where did they go? They disappeared. They got tired. They figured he's done. They don't have to listen to the rest of us. Come here a second. I know Kyle quite a long time, a number of years now. And but I want you to come up here, just right here in front. And you stand right there. Now look at this wonderful family. John F. Kennedy, Jacqueline, and John. I've been calling him JFK for years, and now it's all coming true. So, good man, good solid legislator who will be, I'm sure my colleagues and I will be thrilled to have him down in Harrisburg with us. And Adam Chapin.
Hi.
Susan, I just got even with you there.
Thank you. Love that. Thank you.
Aaron mentioned the T-shirts. You know, it's interesting that how a T-shirt describes our personality, our thoughts, and our beliefs. And that's why today I could have worn a shirt and a tie, or I could have worn an Oxford shirt, but instead, I wore this shirt.
Yes.
Because this is what we stand for today. And my colleagues, I'm sure, will back me up when we say that we can't figure out why the people who oppose unions have such a problem with people making good wages and working under good conditions. And I fail to understand why there is such a problem. And our unions are what have made this country great. And if those people who are against unions, who are against collective bargaining, who are against everything that unions stand for, if they don't like it, well then let them go work in the sweatshops for minimum wage. Let them go work without health insurance, and then if something happens, worry about paying for it out of their own pockets. Let them work under the conditions that none of us here want to work under. We want to have good, strong unions so that we can have good, strong workplaces which allow our families to grow and which in turn allow our union members to provide their families with food on the table, provide them with good educations, which is so important to all of us here today. And we understand, those of you who are teachers, who are educators, you have probably one of the most important jobs that we have in our society today. Along with the doctors who are saving lives and the scientists who are doing research to help make this a better world, you are educating those future scientists, those future doctors, those future educators. And you have one of the most important jobs in our society. And Congressman Cartwright talked about vouchers. All three of my children went to private parochial school until 8th grade. One of them went to parochial school for her high school years. And I didn't ask for a voucher. My wife and I worked 2 and 3 jobs so we could pay for that education because that's how we chose to educate them early. But to expect a handout to send your student to a particular school is just wrong. And what it's going to turn out to be, instead of an opportunity for a better education, vouchers are going to turn into a race for the best students, for the best athletes. And it's going to actually hurt our students. Instead of giving them better education, it's going to cheat the majority of our students who do not have that opportunity, who aren't the great athletes, who aren't the elite or the valedictorians or the top of the class. So we've got to continue to support public education. You've got to continue to look at the best candidates, which are up here today. Congressman Cartwright, you'll see Governor Wolf in a short period of time, but when you go to the polls, make sure you vote for the best candidates, which you are going to see here today. And one last thing, Aaron, if we didn't have all of these political ads on television, how would we know that people like Scott Wagner and John Schrin aren't fit to hold public office? Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, our next legislator comes from my hometown of Pittston, Pennsylvania. He is a graduate of Pittston Area High School. Representative Mike Carroll is the Democratic chairman of the House Environmental and Energy Committee. He chairs the House Democratic Campaign Committee. In 2017, Representative Carroll received the Champion of Children's Award from the PA Partnership for Children for his outstanding leadership on issues helping the children of Pennsylvania. It is my pleasure to welcome Representative Mike Carroll. Thank you. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. When Sid Michaels said that Governor Wolf is going to win, I said to Eddie Day, he better, because if it doesn't happen, we're in for a rocky and sad ride for the next 4 years, especially in the world of public education. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the importance of unions. Representative Kavulich did a good job of making sure that we highlight the importance of union activity and collective bargaining. I'll take my 2 or 3 minutes to talk about public education and what I see happening in Harrisburg and what could happen in Harrisburg if we don't have Governor Wolf get reelected and if we don't have solid legislators that understand the importance of public education get reelected. When it comes to Harrisburg and public education, there are those in Harrisburg that see public education as a gigantic pot of money. They don't see students like we see over here from Coughlin, who did such a wonderful job, and they don't see students from North Pocono, and they don't see students from Valley View. They see a giant pot of money. And when you distill a conversation of public education down to finances, you have done tremendous, tremendous harm right off the bat before you even cast the first vote. Because if we're going to have a conversation about public education considering only finances, then we are making a gigantic mistake. We have to make sure that we recognize the importance of public education as one of the primary and most important functions of state government, right up there with public safety and making sure that we have a solid transportation network. Public education is the tool that ensures the future of our communities, the future of our state, and really the future of our nation. And it's important that we make sure that we elect legislators that can do more than just try and defeat crazy stuff that is run by people who are not advocates for public education. So much of our time in Harrisburg is spent, and when I say us, I include PSEA in this, we spend tremendous amounts of time and energy to try and beat back crazy ideas that would be harmful to those students, harmful to the people of this community, harmful to educators, harmful to everybody. But because of the makeup in Harrisburg today, we spend tremendous amounts of time to beat that stuff back. I am 100% certain that PSEA and PFT and the legislators that are on this podium would far prefer, and I know I would, advocating for positive changes to make sure that we adequately fund our public schools, to minimize the reliance on property taxes that we have in this state, and we can get past these constant conversations about not having enough money in public education. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has to do more. We have to provide additional funds to these public schools. They are not getting enough from Harrisburg. And until we recognize that as policymakers in Harrisburg, there will be a perpetual conversation in these communities about property taxes and how everybody's being harmed. The reality is Harrisburg has run from its obligation to fund these public schools. It's high time that we actually funded them properly to make sure that the students get the very best education and that the people that are involved in public education are treated fairly. I have been proud to do that during my 12 years in Harrisburg, and I continue to do it. And I know I'll have the opportunity to do it for the next 2 years with the folks that are going to be reelected. But truly, if I can impress upon anybody here, the importance of the gubernatorial election and Governor Wolf's reelection is absolutely critical. Because without the governor in the governor's office, we lose a tremendous advocate for public education, and we lose the ability to have some leverage over some of the crazy ideas that the opponents of public education want to advance in Harrisburg. It's been my pleasure to represent North Pocono, Pittston area, and the Wilkes-Barre School District during my time in Harrisburg. In the previous iteration of the maps, I've represented communities and school district of Monroe County. I will every day make sure that I consider the needs of those students first and foremost when I cast votes in Harrisburg. It's incumbent upon every legislator to make sure that they remember there are students like them in every community in the state. It's our job to make sure that they get the very best education and that we fund it properly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we're coming to the exciting part of the program, which for those who know, Eddie Dave Pashinsky really does know how to rev up a crowd. So Representative Pashinsky is a former educator and president of the Greater Nanticoke EA. He is the Democratic chairman of the House Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee. A prominent local musician, he was once the leader of State PACE, Council 4, and the United Way of Wyoming Valley. He represents the 121st District, where he fights for quality education for all students, affordable health care for PA workers, and for tax reform. I give you Representative Eddie Day Pashinsky.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure always to be here with you, and of course to be with my fellow colleagues. I see Annette Paludas, Tony, Mary, all these folks that have for years and years and years fought so that we could have the things that we have for public education. I wore a special pair of pants today.
Woo! Yes!
And why did I wear this special pair of pants? Because it goes with my white and blue. Ladies and gentlemen, today and every day, we are Americans before we are anything else. And I want us to demonstrate our love for this country and the opportunities that it has given us through our democracy. I ask all of you to sing with me before I begin my presentation. Oh, beautiful for spacious sky, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, louder, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Why did we do that? Why did we do that? I'm going to tell you why we did that. Because our country and our democracy is in jeopardy. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you that are here today on behalf of public education are also here today to protect our democracy. You are the Army. Every single one of you that are here today that will stand up on November 7th and vote for the good things that this country stands for, you are the Army. I want your picture. And one more. I'm going to take your picture before and at the end. There is a reason, and I'm not joking around. The only thing that can stop the huge amount of money that is poisoning our democracy by taking democracy away from the people is the huge sums of money, and the only thing that can defeat those huge sums of money is you, the people, the votes. 50% of the American people did not vote. And because of that, we are in chaos. We cannot allow that to happen. Each and every one of us, for this midterm election, has the right, the responsibility of voting for the governor. Let me just tell you something. Do you know how government works? Whoever the majority is, they're the ones that set the agenda, they set the calendar, they allow for bills to pass or to die. Our democracy was based on a balance between good Republicans and good Democrats who fight every day for the betterment of the people, who fight every day for this democracy, and who do not fight for their pocketbooks, who do not fight for their top dollar, who do not fight for the power to control. Why am I shouting? I'm shouting because I'm worried, I'm concerned. I don't want us going back to what it was before. When the coal barons took over and had the power, yes, there were jobs. Yes, there were jobs, but they weren't living wage jobs. The conditions were deplorable. You didn't have a chance for health care or pensions. You didn't have a chance for a quality of life. And that's where we're going back. Yeah, you're going to have a job. You don't have health care, well, that's your problem. You don't have pensions, that's not my problem. I gave you a job. No, that's not what we fought for. We fought for fairness, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking for balance, ladies and gentlemen. I taught before Act 195. Those of you that are here today have no idea what it was like before Act 195. Let me tell you a quick little story. I remember my first year as a teacher, being in the American Legion in Nanticoke, and at that time our administrators were the leaders of PSEA. It wasn't you, the teachers. It was the administrators. And I remember we were talking about negotiations. And I remember Mr. Hoyneski coming up, and the room was filled with us as teachers, and he had a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper were 10 things. And he said, if we get one of these, we're lucky. And I thought to myself, what kind of negotiations is that? If we get one of these things, we're lucky. At that time, we ate lunch with our children every day. There were no 40-minute prep time. You didn't have that kind of health care. You didn't have any of that. It was through collective bargaining. Collective bargaining, which came about by the Democrats who said people should have the opportunity to negotiate with their employer for a fair wage, for fair working conditions, for safe working conditions, so that you could do your job. And doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense? Because when you have a living wage job, what does that mean? That means you can go to any store around this square and buy stuff. That means you can buy a home. That means you can buy a car and clothes, and you contribute back to the growth of this great country. But there's certain people that want to make more. Being a millionaire isn't enough. They must be a multimillionaire. No, they must be a billionaire. It's not enough. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when I said you are the Army, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't want to have you go through the wars that Annette Palutis and Tony Kane, Mel Vogler, Boyd Weiss. I don't want you to have to go through those battles again. A lot of things were sacrificed besides time, blood, and money. It's not right. We've come too far. We cannot allow that to happen. And that's why I'm saying you are the Army. And we are starting here today on our march to November 6th to make sure that we have the person in the governor's spot that has been your backstop, that has been the person who has tried to make you recover financially from that horrific $1 billion loss in 2011. They took $1 billion out of the system. 20,000 teachers gone. Class sizes increased. Elimination of programs because the local schools don't have enough money. Tom Wolf is replacing that loss. But more than replacing the loss, he's demonstrated that the public school is one of the key elements of the success of America. You know why? You know why? Because public schools don't discriminate. Public schools take every child and give every kid a chance. They don't care what side of the tracks you come on. They don't care how much money you have. They take every child and try to educate them so they can become a successful individual. That's what public education. Nothing against the others. It has its place. And people have the right to send their kids where they want. But don't dismantle public ed. Don't dismantle our unions, because if you do that, then you dismantle America. Tom Wolf, Senator Casey, Matt Cartwright, John Udicek, my fellow colleagues Sid Michaels-Kavulich, Michael Carroll, Mullery, Kyle Mullins. Wait a minute, I missed somebody. Oh, give me a break, yes. Give me a vote if you can. Thank you, I love you very much. God bless you, God bless America. Thank you.
I think where'd you get the pants? I gotta get a pair.
Some of the best deals in town, Boscov's.
In all seriousness, we have got to do whatever we can to get Eddie back in office, keep him there. He is so vital to Pennsylvania. So thank you, Eddie Dapashinsky. It's not just because he's not just a colleague, fellow teacher, but he's one of the best politicians we've got in the state. Now, on a normal day, this lineup would have been a home run, but we got a grand slam today. We are so fortunate to have a leader with us this morning who's accomplished so much, not just for the state, but for public education over the last 3.5 years. And I'm talking, of course, about Governor Tom Wolf. He has, over the last 3.5 years, reversed the $1 billion that were stripped away from our schools during the Corbett years. The Republicans like to take credit for bringing it back. I heard him talk about it a week and a half ago. No, it's Governor Wolf. Many of our students and teachers are thankful that due to Governor Wolf, standardized testing time has been finally reduced, allowing us to do what we should be doing, teaching and learning. Imagine that. Under Governor Wolf's tenure, career and technical education has been given the attention it so badly deserves, allowing our students to be prepared for jobs of the future. His efforts are going to allow Pennsylvania to be a giant in the leader of innovation. Governor Wolf has stood arm in arm with the labor unions and prevented ridiculous legislation from becoming a reality. He has been our goalie, stopping one cheap shot after the next. He has promised, and he's stuck by his word, to veto any bill that would limit our right to bargain contracts. He has protected payroll deductions. He's ensured educators will have seniority rights. And while the Supreme Court turned its back on all of us, Tom Wolf has stood proudly by us. And if that wasn't enough, he's enacted a fair funding formula that's going to allow kids of all zip codes and of all area codes to have schools that are going to be fairly funded. What more could you want from a governor? And in this age of insanity and embarrassing politicians, our governor has been a breath of fresh air. He's the kind of guy we'd actually want our students to grow up and be. You can't say that about most people down in Washington or even in Harrisburg. But you can say that about Tom Wolf. He's a good-hearted man, and he wants to make Pennsylvania better. It's not about any political stepping stones. He just wants to make Pennsylvania better. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we got to do whatever we can to get him reelected. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the best governor in America, the champion of public schools in Pennsylvania, Governor Tom Wolf. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really great. So, Aaron, thank you for that great introduction. Let me just start by saying thank you to all of you who do what we need in this society. You teach. And our future depends on what you do. What goes on in the classrooms in Pennsylvania, throughout Pennsylvania, is going to determine the future we have, whether we even have a future. So I want to thank you on behalf of every Pennsylvanian, because what you do is central to what we want to become and what we are. So thank you very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. I want to tell you why this election is so important to our shared venture here. We need to make sure that our kids get the education they deserve. And as Aaron said, regardless of the zip code. This election is really about that. I mean, I came to Harrisburg, and what I found, and really one of the reasons I ran was because the folks in Harrisburg, when I got to Harrisburg, didn't think education was as important as it really is. And so they had stripped education of funding. We had laid off, I guess, 20,000 educators in the 4 years before I got to Harrisburg. Since I've been there, we have put a historic amount of money into education, giving teachers the resources they need to teach. I've taken, as Aaron said, taken time away from these standardized tests, high-stakes tests, so that teachers can actually do what you're supposed to do, which is teach. And your kids can do what they're supposed to do, and that is learn. That is really important. And we've gotten good results. We've had a huge increase in the number of kids who are benefiting from early childhood education, pre-K education. We have had a huge increase in the number of kids getting a STEM education. We now have a graduation rate that is approaching 90%, well above the national average. These are really important things. But let me tell you something else that happened. When I got to Harrisburg, my predecessors, and it's still going on all around the country, they are trying to balance budgets on the backs of our kids. What they're really doing is trying to balance budgets on the backs of our future. In fact, on the backs of all of us. So what I'm really proud of is I have done all these things to restore education, restore funding to education, to begin to get back to where we need to be. And we still have a ways to go. I admit that. 3.5 years, but we still have work to do. But we're getting there, and we're moving in the right direction. But here's the point. This is really stuff that works. So I'm proud of the fact that I have put money into education, historic amounts of investment in education. I have done things to help make sure that teachers' lives are better, that teachers have the resources we need them to have to teach the kids the things we need them to teach. We need to have these kids learn. But here's the deal. I also balance the budget. For the first time, now you got to look at my administration for 8 years and 8 months now. You have to look at that administration as a narrative, one story. When I got there, we had not only devastated our education system, we had devastated our budget. We couldn't pay our bills. And the bills we were paying late, and we were paying it with next year's revenues. So we had $200 and some thousand in the rainy day fund. The checkbook was virtually empty. We had to borrow money just to keep the lights on. I invested historic amounts of money into education. I have made education a much better proposition for all of our citizens. At the same time, and because of that, we have a balanced budget. A few weeks ago, I had 2 press conferences, one in Harrisburg and one in Pittsburgh. The one in Pittsburgh, I announced tens of millions of new dollars going into STEM education, career and technical education to make sure that our public education system is more practical, more relevant to the needs of a 21st century economy. Earlier that day, I had a press conference in Harrisburg with the state treasurer, where I made a deposit into the rainy day fund of $22 million. We have like $246,000 is what we had in it at that point, $22 million. It was the first deposit in the rainy day fund in over a decade. You'll recall we actually had a budget done early this year, right? That budget was done early. That was the first time in 20 years. I mean, my predecessor talked about getting the general appropriations part done early, but I actually got that, and we got the codes done. These details that usually would drift out into the summer months, those were all done a week before the deadline. Now, I didn't do that when I was in school. I never got my take on that. This budget was done early. It was done early and it was done right. We have billions of dollars in our checkbook. I am not going to have to borrow a penny to keep the lights on this year. And this is 3 years and 8 months. The point is, if you do the right thing, you do the smart thing. Investing in education is what we need to do to have a prosperous economy, a really good society, a healthy community, a healthy commonwealth. It's what I have done, and I'm proud that in doing that, I have also put the Commonwealth on a sound financial foundation. Thanks to you, thanks to all of us working together, we are making Pennsylvania a much better place. Now that's what this election is about. Because we still have people on the other side talking about, let's take Pennsylvania back to where we were 3.5 years ago. Let's take Pennsylvania to the place that Kansas is and Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma can't even afford to keep their schools open for more than 4 days in a week. They have the same economy we have in Pennsylvania. They have the same healthy global economy. They can't make that work. The point is, it doesn't work. The other thing that doesn't work is trashing unions. Education is strong because you have someone negotiating for you at the bargaining table to make sure that you have compensation that you deserve, to make sure that you have benefits and working conditions that make you want to come and deal with, be in this profession for your lifetimes. That's really important. If we lose that, we lose one of the key factors in a quality public education system. And that's why standing up for organized labor is really important. We have seen the first stirrings of the assault that all of us have seen in many states, but we've seen the first stirrings in the federal government with the Supreme Court decision on Janus. That is an assault on the right of ordinary people to organize. It's an assault on your right to have someone speaking for you and bargaining for you when you deal with school boards, when you deal with people who really want to know whether you want to have a profession that's worth attracting people to. We need to have a strong union. We need to have people who have the right to bargain. We cannot have things like, am I right here? Right to work. I'm going to veto that if it comes to my desk. But I also have to work with you to make sure that we offset the harmful impact that the Janus decision in Washington could have on everybody. And I will continue to work with the PSEA, with your leaders, with you, to make sure that you continue to have the right that we need you to have to bargain so that you make sure that this profession is in fact a profession that attracts good people like you into it to teach our kids the things we need them to learn. I will continue to work for that. I need your help. I need your help and I need your continued support. You have been a good friend to me because I understand how important what you do is. This election is really important for that reason, and we need to make sure that we get all of our friends out to vote and recognize. Now, I know every politician says this election is important, and I hate when people drop names. I was with President Obama yesterday, and he said the same thing, okay? This is an important election. And he made the comment back when he ran the 2 elections he ran, he said that too, that those were really important elections, and they were to him. This election is important to me, but I think this election is important to all of us. Democracy is on the line. The future of education, public education, is on the line. The future of our children, the future of our Commonwealth is actually on the line here. We need to do one thing, and one thing alone. It's the one thing that citizens can do to make sure our democracy does what it's supposed to do, and that is vote. Get out and vote. You vote. Get your friends to vote. Get your members to vote. Get other teachers to vote. Get everybody to vote. And let's take our democracy back. Let's make sure education stays strong. Everybody in Pennsylvania needs that. Here's to a great future, and here's to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eddie Day Pashinsky pretty much gave my speech for me. So what I want to do is I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to our union brothers and sisters who are here today standing up for public education as we stand up for them for workers' rights throughout the Commonwealth. My only message to you is there's a reason why you're here today, and that's because you know you make the difference. Vote. Thank you.
Man, I had a good speech about Dolores, too.